I rise in support of the End Chinese Dominance of Electric Vehicles in America Act, introduced by my good friend and Ways and Means colleague, Ms. Carol Miller of West Virginia. For years, the Chinese Communist Party has been doing everything it can do to dominate the electric vehicles market, from the critical minerals needed to build EV batteries to the vehicles themselves. Through forced labor practices, market distorting subsidies, and illegal trade mechanisms, China for years has manipulated the global marketplace for electric vehicles and their components. Instead of using the critical minerals in our own backyard to compete, the Biden-Harris administration has put an effective ban on recovering those materials and minerals in the U.S., furthering China's competitive advantage. To make matters worse, pushed by their radical environmentalist base, the Harris-Biden administration is now using American taxpayer dollars to further China's dominance of the EV market. When Vice President Harris cast the deciding, tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Expansion Act, she and every Democrat in Congress handed a massive gift to the Chinese government and its cronies. While the letter of the law, as written by Senator Manchin, states these tax handouts are off limits to foreign entities of concern like China, the Harris-Biden administration wrote ridiculously weak implementation regulations that every Chinese businessman should love. The Foreign Entity of Concern regulations for the Inflation Expansion Act's EV credits put out by the Department of Treasury are insulting. They're insulting to every American who cares about national security and who doesn't want to see their tax dollars flow to China. One has to ask, why not copy the exact same regulations that the Department of Commerce put out when implementing the semiconductor grants in the CHIPS Act? If they were good then, why not now? If the Harris-Biden administration was concerned enough about China accessing U.S. tax dollars that they wrote language prohibiting any Chinese national from having a 25% stake in a U.S. company receiving grants, why not do the exact same thing here? Why instead write a massive implementation loophole that allows any Chinese billionaire with unofficial ties to the Chinese Communist Party to receive U.S. taxpayer subsidies? The answer is simple. The current occupants of the White House are conflicted. They're conflicted between pretending to be tough on China and being responsive to the radical environmentalists who control their party. It's time we put the brakes on giving taxpayer money to Chinese billionaires and the Chinese Communist Party. When Democrats controlled Washington, they opened the door for China to take billions from hard-working taxpayers. Under Republican leadership of the House of Representatives, we are fighting back on the side of American taxpayers and for the security and prosperity for our nation, not for the Chinese Communist Party. This legislation shuts down the loopholes the Harris-Biden administration have created that allows Chinese billionaires and manufacturers to profit from American taxpayer dollars. America's working families should not be forced to subsidize a nation whose decades of unfair trade practices and government subsidies have led to lost jobs, shuttered factories, and hollowed out communities right here at home. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation and join me in telling China that days of fleecing American taxpayers are over. I urge all my colleagues to support this legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.